Hi everyone, welcome back to Candid Founders, where we give you a candid view of a growing business. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the habits that we have and the habits that we'd like to have that make us our most productive selves and hopefully have a positive effect on the business. And this has been top of mind of us at the moment because, Andy, you've just finished a book about forming habits, haven't you?
Yeah, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's actually been an awesome book. It follows on, I think, a little bit from Charles Duhigg's book. I think it was The Power of Habit. But you can tell me if I'm wrong in the comments below, I'm sure. And it talked about habit loops in that book. And James Clear talks about like four things that just really help you improve your habits. And I've been going on and on at Lucy about these. And I think they're really cool. So making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. And you can also think about that for the opposite of kind of breaking those habits as well. So make it unattractive, make it less obvious, make it really hard, and make it not satisfying. And I think we're quite strong, at least some of the habits we've got, both for the team and ourselves.
Yeah. And I think this is why when I was thinking about this episode, I wanted to talk about the habits that we've tried to have, because there's some habits that I've tried and I've maybe stuck with them for a week or sometimes even a day. And I think, great, that was actually really good. Like that, I had a really productive day because of that habit. And then I've still really struggled to stick with the habit, even though I know it's good for me.
Yeah.
And I just want to kind of bring in, because I feel like a lot of these videos about habits, especially in this kind of hustle culture where people are like, yeah, I'm up at 5 a.m. and at the gym for 3 hours.
Go, guys.
And then, I don't think that's realistic because we're just human. We're not robots. So I think there's some habits we're really good at sticking to, others less so.
I think I'm a bit more robotic than you maybe though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I kind of want to unpick why you seem to be better at sticking to habits than I am. I'm a bit more fluctuating, or I'll be really motivated and do 2 weeks and then I'll get out of the rhythm and then kick myself and be like, that's it, I can't get back into the rhythm. I've missed a day and I'm like, no.
And that's one of the things they talk about in the book, is that you really got to be more kind on yourself. And how do you get back once you've kind of jumped off the horse? How do you get back on the horse without it kind of throwing you completely? And I think my biggest thing of why I'm probably, maybe a bit more habit driven is that I've always been a swimmer, and it's the number one thing I do every single day is exercise in the morning, first thing before everything else. And if I don't, I am shocking. I might as well throw out the rest of the day. It's so bad. And I know all I need to do is just go, swim, walk, run, weights or whatever it is, and I'm not even some massive gym bro, although maybe I am. I don't know.
Nice.
Nice. But getting there. So and that's always been something that has kind of worked for me. And then I've started to do some habit stacks. I didn't even realize I did this, but one of the habit stacks I do is I also put on I take a lot I downstairs when I go to the gym and that type of thing. But maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Because I want to dive into individual habits, discuss them. There'll be some that exercise, water, the usual stuff, but then others that maybe you haven't covered off or tried before that have worked for us. So it'll be interesting to see if there's anything new things that you want to try.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was probably good to start with maybe the main ones that we have for teams, or at least for our teams.
Yeah.
And so I think we're just kind of getting started. I probably had a bit more when I was in the corporate world. And maybe the corporate world is very habit driven or kind of cadence driven. But our kind of big three that we wanted to talk about today, at least were from a team perspective, was the team meeting, sharing our wins, and now how we're getting more and more into Notion.
It's about processes, because in starting the team, obviously it was just me, and then I brought on Jess and Bushra, and that the team have slowly grown, and now you're on board. I'm not very process driven. I'm very kind of not scatty, because I think that's being hard on myself, because I'm I just hold a lot in my head, and usually can stay on top of that, but obviously that falls down when suddenly there's a lot going on and one thing slips. So I think you're very process driven, so you've kind of come in being what's the process here, how do we kind of make it more structured, which I think sometimes we clash over, just because our brains work in different ways from that. I don't like being reined into the process, but once I stick into a process and get into a habit of doing it, I see the benefit. So I think there's been a bit of push and pull on that one.
Well, I think the biggest frustration for me is I don't want to have to redo something. I just want to do it and do it once. And so I think a good example of that comes to mind would be something like the product launches. So we've got a product launch coming up soon, Black Panthers and White Sloths. I think this episode will be out in the right time. We'll have talked about them. I think we already have.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found quite frustrating.
Not some kind of like secret launch that you've just...
Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. But that kind of frustrated me is that why don't we just have like a checklist for this? It's the same for most of our launches. We talk about it to the right people at the right times. And I just want to be able to go through and say, okay, 4 weeks beforehand, we're going to do this. 3 weeks, we're going to do that. 2 weeks, day of launch, what do we need to make sure we're checked? And every single one of our launches, we've had things where it's kind of like, if we had a checklist for that, we could have just made sure we got it. Like, for example, we weren't selling our Otter Kids for months.
Yeah,
so we had like 1,500 socks that we just didn't list anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that is... So just stuff like that. But then again, also, it just kind of like stops you from rethinking everything that you've got to do all the time.
And I'm just looking back again at these like 4 behaviors that make habits easier. And one of them is like, make it easy. And that's what this is about. Like those kind of checklists and things that you want to take all the decision making out of it, that we get to a product launch and we don't want to be like, okay, guys, what do we need? What do we want to do? How do we do this? We've done loads of them. Like we just need to rinse, repeat what works. Obviously don't have a checklist and then don't review it, because I think after a launch you kind of want to look back and be like, actually this worked well, this didn't, and then adjust. But really you want to take the decision making out and
I don't
just
think
make
we've
it
done
easy.
that too much, much as it's just been like let's kind of do the checklist. And I think the biggest thing is I still want, we're not robots, we're not doing this by computer, so the checklist just actually gives us structure and guidance of kind of how we need to think. And then we can still be super creative as well.
Yeah.
That's probably like the biggest thing for me is like, let's focus the creative energy on the messaging, on the tone of voice we want to get, on what's our like strap line for the marketing campaign we're going for.
The photography.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing. But I think kind of going into like the 3 habits that we wanted to talk about for the team. So we had the team meeting, sharing wins and Notion. I think if we just start with a team meeting, I think this is something I brought in when I came in that I think has really helped everyone to kind of get on the same page. The way that I like to think about work is just like, let's just do it on autopilot. Let's make it as easy as possible. And I think having like a structured team meeting is probably the best way to do that, I've found. So just regular cadence. We do ours every Monday, Wednesday, 9 a.m. The team checks in. Sometimes we cancel it. So today's Easter Monday and we're doing this podcast. We've not moved our team meeting to be Tuesday. It's going to be a short week. We'll be fine with just the Wednesday check-in, but just that regular touch base of like, okay, like what actually we're going to do. And we cover quite a few things in there. We've got our question of the day. We've got some business topics we need to speak about, our achievements for the week or week prior, any updates and any priorities in any areas that we need to help. And that sounds a lot when you're saying it, but when we get into the meeting at 9 a.m., we get into the meeting and the first 5 minutes of the meeting, a little bit of pleasantry, sure, but then we go, all right, guys, let's jump into it. And we take the time to write it out. I've been in heaps of other teams where beforehand they get together and they say, okay, what are we going to put in as our priorities and that type of thing? It just seems a bit disingenuous. But if you give everyone a chance at the start of the meeting, everyone's going to have had a little bit of a chance to think. It's only 5 minutes, but it's a lot more than what other people do.
Yeah, so we'll use an Excel spreadsheet basically, and we've got an updates column, priorities column, and then a questions column. And what's good about this is people know to submit things in the week. So if I have a think, something comes to mind in the week and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to speak to Jess about that. Sometimes it might be a very reactive thing and I'll just go on Slack, but another time I may just be like, I'm just going to put this on the agenda for Wednesday and just chuck it in,
so
done.
Good.
So without thinking about it. And that's just in there. And then, we'll have this kind of like 5 minutes for everyone just to chuck in their updates and priorities and their wins, like achievements and things, which funnily enough is one of the harder things to get people to do. We jump straight into updates and priorities.
And the hardest part for us as well, even though we've got it at the start, I still don't think we've nailed it.
Yeah.
But I love hearing the achievements. Every time we do it, it's like, yes, actually, we're doing so much. Maybe we're busy fools, but we're actually achieving some things.
Yeah, 100%. And question of the day, I just wanted to cover off that because that's a fun thing that we brought in. Actually, you guys brought in whilst I was traveling last year, where we assign question of the day to a new person each week, and it just rotates, and they just have to ask a question of us, and it's very random. One of my favorite ones was I think it was Jess came out with, if you could live in one like a fantasy world, which one would it be?
That was so good.
So it's
yeah.
like, you know, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like that kind
Star Wars.
Yeah, that kind of thing came out. So it's very like usually nothing to do with work. It's just some random question, and I don't know, we just get to know each other a little bit better, which is harder to do in a remote team. But yeah, it's always a fun thing. So we start with a question, and then before someone does their updates and priorities, they have to answer that question, and then they can dive into work stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing. It's almost like structured fun, but in a nice way.
Organized fun.
Organized
fun.
fun.
My favorite.
But I think I would much prefer to work in an environment where you kind of take the time to think about that rather than jumping in and just kind of being like, well, we're all automatons. Well, that's great, but you can't always, you know, I think before we had the question, it was always like, hey, how was your weekend? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's great. And it's always nice to kind of know, you hear a little bit about, you know, people, what they did that weekend. But I also tended to find that we were the ones that would drive that conversation. I don't think the team felt like, and maybe this is on us, but I don't think the team felt like they were, maybe had the license to be able to say, actually, I want to find out what Jess is up to. Because it was kind of taking away from the meeting.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So we were kind of
but as now
driving.
it's part of the meeting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is my space to share.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite ones this most recently, so you were away last week, so all the girls were working together last week, and you were on question of the day on Wednesday, and you'd already put in your question of the day.
What was
for
it?
Wednesday's meeting. You asked everyone what our favorite t-shirt was, and
What a
when you
great
next go
question.
in the team meeting, I've recorded all the answers for you, so I've like taken minutes on everyone's like favorite t-shirt and their reasoning behind
What a classic. Damn, that was a good one as well. But I think like kind of coming back to the business, so there's obviously a positive impact from the team, getting together, finding out a bit more about each other, but then the rhythm as well. So it's super important that we're all pointed in the right direction, and that we as the business owners are kind of giving our direction of, okay, this is what our key priorities are at the moment. We need everyone on board. And I would say we're probably one of the most aligned teams, if not the most aligned team that I've ever worked with, of like, we're doing this week. So we did our pre-sales, we worked out wholesale, and we're just ticking off every single week something quite big and juicy that we need the whole team to do. Everyone's got their own specific issues, not issues, but you know, areas that the team are working on, whether that's emails, design, what have you, but it just moves it forward. That's the priorities, that's the updates, and everyone kind of, when you're in a small team, kind of less than 10, you almost want everyone to know what everyone's up to. It's not like a goal, but people tend to want to know what everyone's doing. And this is the greatest way to do it, because there's really no excuses and people just naturally pick it up.
Yeah.
Anything bigger, it's kind of natural to not know what everybody in the team's doing. But anything smaller, I think it's kind of like, you know, inbuilt. You're not going to do everything for everybody else, but it's kind of helpful. You've got a little bit of ideas and we chime in.
I've noticed since we've been doing this, and this is we've had this in place for a while now, and we're much less siloed because of it. So I think before, people had much less awareness of what other people in the team were doing, and I've now noticed that they're much more independent with their own interactions with each other. So it's more of a case of like, rather than individually coming to me and being like, I'm doing this, what's next, they'll just be like, oh, I spoke to someone about this topic. So I don't know, Bushra might come to me and say, oh, I had a call with Beth and we did this wholesale stuff and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, great.
Yeah, great.
Just off their own back. And I think that's because they know they have this central point of these are our priorities, and then they move out. So they're almost more empowered to work with each other without always getting us involved. Which is really nice, because I think, you know, your workers should feel empowered to, you know, understand what the business priority is and how to move it forward without us being on every single conversation.
Yeah. And I think we've been pushing that as well as a team. Of like, I've noticed it quite a lot that we don't get together as much as we should, or you know,
because I'm like anti-meeting. I think that's off the back of a corporate job. Really, I'm like, I almost don't want to put in too many meetings and then have to scale back. But it's like finding that happy medium.
And I'm probably more, I don't want a meeting. I just want a rhythm. And I know that sometimes the meetings can force the rhythm. So like the team meeting forces the rhythm for us to do the updates, get priorities across, ask everyone for help, check in, and that's the function of it. And I think maybe that's something that probably, like, as you grow as well with a leader, that you're comfortable to bring people together in service of the greater mission, and it's okay that it takes a bit of time. I mean, we've got 2 standing meetings a week. Like that's literally it.
Oh, but we have some like a month. Like we'll have like the content calendar
Sure,
session.
but like, I mean, compared to what we had in corporate, where it was meetings all day, every day. It's a different world.
Felt like you weren't doing any work. You were just on meetings all the time.
No, that's true.
It's like the opposite now.
Especially as you get more senior.
Yeah. So yeah, team meeting, that's been a good one. Another one that I love that we brought in, and I think this is such a positive thing, I think everyone should do this, is we have a Slack channel. So yeah, if you don't use Slack, you basically can have loads of different channels of
basically Teams
topics.
as well.
Yeah, same as Microsoft Teams. So you can set a channel for wholesale, website, email marketing. We've got everything. It's a really good way to organize things. One of our channels is just wins. And that is where you would you'll just put something, anything good happens. And it's really nice. When we first started it, it was definitely more us using it. Now the team have kind of like learned from that to go in and shout about something. And we encourage them to shout about their own triumphs, but also everyone else. So I think we kicked this off to be in and be like, tag one of them and be like, great piece of work from this person. Like they've achieved this and this, love to see it. And I don't know, maybe people found it cringy to start with, but now it's just the natural thing to just go in and be like, this has happened, amazing. It's a really nice
stoked
channel.
about XYZ.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy as well. Like it pops up. It's could be a notification that you look at and think, oh God, but every one of the notifications have been great.
It's my favorite channel. As soon as I see wins, I'm like, yes, I'm going to read this.
My second favorite channel though is stuff you would say, stuff you only hear at a soccer company.
Yeah, we do say some weird things just because of the nature of our work.
Show me your feet.
We're not saying that that often.
What shoe size are you? I say that so much. It's bizarre.
But especially because of the animal link with our socks, there's a lot of random ones. Like there was a whole debate around whether it's platypuses or platypi.
Platypi, yeah.
And like which one, like there was a scientifically correct one, but there was a one that sounded better, and there's just a whole debate in the team.
What did we go with in the end? Platypuses?
I think platypus.
Yeah,
I think
just straight.
It just sound. I think technically plural was platypi, but I was like, it just doesn't. This was for our packaging, and I was like, I actually am going to say these socks say platypus.
Platypus.
I think but anyway, we digress.
Yeah, and I think we had this. So that was kind of like the Slack, and using maybe Slack not just as a channel, but also like what are your other channels that are set up, and kind of having everything in their right places. So whenever we're communicating about product, wholesale, YouTube, whatever it is, there's a place for that, and you can kind of follow on a little bit. And I think that also helps you kick people that you don't want to be following a particular area. So for example, our designer, we don't have in every single one of our channels because we just want them to focus on the designs. They don't need to know everything about, the wholesale nuances.
Yeah, because I think it's too easy to go through reading all the notifications. So you can be kind of more protective of people's time.
Yeah, as busy work almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's important. And we were previously using Slack as our knowledge management channel, or not knowledge management channel, but as our knowledge management system. And we've now moved to Notion as that, which I'm really glad we've done that. And I wish we'd done it sooner. We were continually setting off new Excel spreadsheets that would have some type of business priorities or YouTube video lists or
it was chaos.
Team meetings. And they were they got the job done, but then inevitably people Lucy
guilty
I don't know would do another Excel sheet, and
they'd just get this is the problem, they'd get messy or they'd get like overused and there's just so much in them, and then I'd just be like, I'm going to start a new one, and I'd just start a fresh one, and then like the team were eventually like, I have no idea where I'm meant to be putting things. I was like, oh, my bad. I
think my favorite reaction was from Jess, if you're editing this, and you said, oh, don't tell me this is another spreadsheet, and you're like, sorry, I did not mean that in a rude way. And I just thought
I think it's
but it was the right call, because we needed to actually move to something where we could have our knowledge all in the same place. So that's been important, and kind of getting the team into that rhythm of, okay, what's the habit? I've got a question, someone else has that question. And I think the transition of moving from our wholesale manager to our new operations manager has been much slicker, because we've done a knowledge management transfer.
Yeah.
And we've put it all on Notion. Everything's there, and we don't have to worry about it being in Slack or some random message 6 months ago that's not searchable. And that's been, I think, probably a really great output from that habit.
100%. Yeah. So Notion, a real good one. And you use it personally a lot as well, don't you?
Yeah. Personally. Like it's some big Big thing. Yeah, it's my personal thing. Don't read it.
No, I meant like just like you like sitting doing your like to-do lists and stuff. I'm still on paper for my to-do lists. I haven't quite moved to.
Well, I write it out because I can't trust myself, and then I put it in Notion.
So you write out and then type it out.
Yeah. Don't know why, but
we need to have a discussion about this.
It sticks. It works.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the team habits we've got at the moment. There's definitely some more, but I'd be really interested to see if anyone else is running a team, what kind of habits they use as well. This is just kind of like a sample that I'm probably most fond of at the moment. So yeah, if you've got any, hit us up, send us an email,
yeah, we'd love
put
to
it in
know.
the comments
we
below.
like trying new ones, yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we've also got some for ourselves. And I very much think of this as like, put your oxygen mask on before you help anyone else. Just kind of like, oh, yeah, let's get this oxygen mask. Let's get ready.
That is a thing, like fix yourself before you help me. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so we've got kind of like, we put down at least 4 big ones for us as a couple: exercise, phones, agendas the night before, and then I probably like, food, hydration, nutrition as our big 4. Exercise, I think you're pretty good at it.
Yeah. And again, I'd say you definitely notice it with you. Like if you don't exercise every day, it almost hits you sooner than me.
Yeah.
I can kind of be like, so I had a cold last week, so I haven't exercised much in the past week. And I'm about ready to like pop, I think. Like I need to kind of get back into the habit. Whereas I don't know what stage you'd be at if you were like 7 days in. We definitely wouldn't be here.
Category 9, cyclone just storming in my head. And the more I think about it, the more I need that dopamine hit in the morning of just like, okay.
It is quite addictive.
It calms my nerves. Like I said before, I've been swimming my whole life. And I was up at 5, and the first thing, I couldn't even eat. It was too early. Like I just go in, swim, exercise, and that was my thing. And I went from being an absolute trouble child, to be honest. I got expelled from my first school, to being like a great student, a great, I think it's been probably the most important habit of my life.
Yeah, it's kind of like your awakening moment.
Big talk.
Nice. Yeah, big talk. But yeah, so one of the things I wanted to bring up is like the best way to form this habit, because I think we're both early risers naturally, and not everyone, that doesn't come to everyone naturally. And we're also both quite active people. So I really enjoy going to the gym, going for a big run. Like it's just something I really enjoy doing.
Before we were together, you definitely didn't.
Oh, no. Yeah, I've always been really into sport, but not gym. But I've noticed that in a lot of my friends as well, that we never used to be into gym. We'd only do sport. So I think it is like a kind of rite of passage as you like come out of uni and need to like regularly exercise. I don't always have the time commitment to go and join a sports team. Sometimes I'll do a social one. But
at what time? Like, okay, great, I want to play hockey, but at 9:00 at night on a Tuesday and Thursday?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like late, and then it takes up all your Saturday as well. So I have had to find other like exercise outlets. But I find that the best way that we form this habit and actually be able to go, because when you first wake up, I don't think, yes, I'm going to the gym right now.
Woo, let's go.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like, oh, okay. And I found the best way to do it is to just get up and go to the gym without any really preconception of what I'm going to do. Because by the time you get there and like warm up a bit and start moving your body, you're like, okay, now I feel more motivated and I'm going to crack on with the session and just smash it out.
That's been massive for you.
Yeah.
I was really surprised at how important it was that, because I just was like, Lucy would always ask me, oh, what are you going to do at the gym? And I'd say, no idea. Doesn't matter. I'll work it out when I get there. And that just don't ask yourself your question until you're actually there. That was massive unlock. I think you're probably like double the amount of times you go to gym because of that.
Because I used to think I'd need some kind of exercise plan, and I'd be like, great, arms tomorrow or whatever's going on. And then I'd wake up and be like, arms, I just don't really feel like it. But
what
actually
am I gonna
now,
do on my arms? Yeah.
And then sometimes, so we just get up and we just go to the gym and we get there. And sometimes my body is just not feeling it. Maybe I'm getting sick, or I'm really tired. So I'll have a stretch, or I'd have a walk on the treadmill. Like I just kind of just get my body moving.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I get there, start warming up and be like, great, okay, I'm feeling good. And then crack out a 5K run on the treadmill. But if you told me 20 minutes ago that I'm lying in bed, you'd be like, you're just about to do a 5K. I'd be like, nah,
no,
I'm going to go back to sleep.
Stop. Just let it come. I think the only thing else I do as well is just put my clothes out in the morning and I just pick it up. I'm cold. I put my clothes on. I feel better. I grab my water bottle bottle and I just leave, and I grab my phone and I just start walking to the gym. And then I just, I'm happy to mindlessly scroll until I get into the gym, start to warm up, still mindlessly scrolling. But then after I'm warm, I'm like, oh, okay, let's do something now. And that's just, it might be a little bit of a cheat, just kind of like, maybe getting TikTok before, but just take it from there.
I think so. And that's actually a good segue into our next one, which is talking about our relationship with our phones. And most people have one these days. Most people, I don't know anyone that has a fantastic relationship with their phone.
Does.
Like
no way.
They are literally built to be addictive. Like our human brains have no hope when it comes to our phones. So the best thing is to just remove it entirely from the situation. So I try and not take my phone to the gym. When I do, yes, I've got like a podcast or some music racked up, but it's too tempting to look at. And I have found that my most productive days are when I've not looked at my phone at all.
Yeah, I find this mad. I think one of the craziest times I've ever seen is Lucy. I think I walked up to Lucy at lunch or something. I said, honey, like, where's your phone? I needed to make a payment or something. And you were like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Just how is it not attached to your arm?
Where is it? Like, have you lost it? Is something wrong? But just, I've not looked at it today. It's not on. Like, that boggles my mind.
Yeah. If I and I have not been able to do this often because usually something will come up, but if I manage to get through to like 3 p.m, I have a note to my phone. Oof, it's a good day. Like as soon as you're on it, whether it's something, it could be something good happening, anything. Like you see a message, you see a piece of news, something on Instagram. It's just kind of ticking over in your brain, and I find it much harder to then not look at my phone again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I've got a healthy relationship with my phone sometimes and an unhealthy relationship other times. So like, I like using it. For example, I've got like a fitness mode and a work mode. So I just like, stop notifications. I don't get anything in fitness other than from you if you call me or something. And that just, doesn't interrupt my, interrupt my habit. But I kind of also use it to kind of get in. And, when I'm on the bike and I'm sitting there, just a stationary bike, heart rate's 150 beats a minute, and I am bored out of my mind, I just will happily go on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and I just kind of use that in the background. But I still get an awesome workout, and I've kind of held it steady, just check my watch, I'm all good. So I think there are lots of positives. I think one of the other ones that just boggles my mind is people having their phones in their bedrooms. I hear so often of like, use your phone as, like, people use their phone as their alarm clock, and it's like, oh, I need it for my alarm clock. Mate, get an alarm clock.
Just get a normal
They're
one.
like £3.
It's literally the main thing we do, and we have done we've been together over 5 years now, and this is it. No phones in the bedroom.
Never.
Like our phones are in our office. We use I don't want to say it out loud because it will trigger it, but we use a smart speaker
the
as
Amazon
our alarm.
speaker, yeah.
But yes, or we just have like a manual alarm clock. And so because so many people, the first thing you see, you don't see daylight, you see your phone screen, and that's the first thing you do in the morning.
Oof.
Yeah,
rough.
So that is actually one habit we have absolutely stuck to. Do you know what? The only times I haven't done it is if you're away.
Yeah.
And I've done, especially if we're in different countries, because we'll probably talk. So if you're back home in Australia, I have my phone in the bedroom because we'll talk like my nighttime, your morning type thing.
Yeah.
And I have then noticed I cannot help myself. I pick it up in the morning, and I guess it is probably because I'll then talk to you again in the morning. But I spend much longer in bed. It takes me like longer to wake up. So that's the only time when I actually really notice the difference to my like mental health as I'm waking up.
Yeah, great. So when I'm not there, your mental health dives. That's what I took away from. Probably an improvement. And I kind of probably do check my phone every morning and night, just because my family is over the other side of the world. So I do like to see, if they've said anything, reply first thing, and typically no one else has messaged me overnight. So I do check it and get back to family.
Yeah, that just comes with the territory. And one thing I want to touch back on is when you're talking about focus mode. So iPhone, so we're both on iPhone. Sorry, Samsung.
Rip. Would love a nice Samsung though. They do look quite good.
Yeah, so I can't talk if they have this, but yeah, the different types of focus modes and stuff. So I've got my focus mode, like my work mode on my iPhone set for 9 till 5 in the week, and my phone just turns into this really boring thing. So it's just black lock screen, black home screen. The only apps on there are work ones. Like there's just, you just look at it and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, and then so outside of work, I've got my rabbit pictures on there. I've got like my WhatsApp, Instagram, like everything's there. So that kind of helps. And another other thing, if you don't know, if you triple click your lock button, it makes your screen go black and white. And there is something about it that makes it way less addictive if it's in black and white compared to if it's in color. So that's a nifty little trick.
Yeah. And what I quite like about, the focus mode is it also sets you up for the next day. And I think this is something that you do really well. It's like kind of working out what you want to do tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Because I was going to say, I think you do it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's very nice.
I think you do it. So shall we talk about that? Because that was the next
Yeah.
one on my list, is this like setting of your agenda for the next day. And yes, when I do it, again, I don't do it all the time, but when I do it the night before, I'll kind of sit down, just reflect and be like, okay, what are my big things to do the next day? It just is so much easier for you to then rock up in the morning. And something I've learned is my like sleep phenotype means that I'm more productive on my big tasks first thing in the morning. So the first thing I should be doing is just diving in and just going for those big like chunky things that I really need to get done. Eat the frog. Yeah, just do. Sometimes it's the worst, the last thing that you want to do, get that done first and then it's done. So I'll kind of like write all that out. And you have like a particular way of doing it with all your kind of like how you do your checklists, don't you? You'll have like small things and then other projects and things, don't you?
Yeah. And I think it depends on my mood, but sometimes I need to just kind of tick off a couple small tasks to get going, almost like a little warm up. And I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, tick.
Yeah, done. and I wish I was a bit better at kind of getting into like the big things, but I've got kind of, a few non-negotiables I don't want to get done that day. And I'm not exactly sure of like when I would do them all the time. And sometimes I've got, meetings in the morning and the like, so I don't get onto it until the afternoon. But yeah, a couple of things, projects, tasks, that's kind of like the big buckets.
And I think that's a very normal thing. I do this with checklists. I'll write something on the checklist that I've already done and then be like, cross it out.
Thank you so much. What a win.
Yeah, like go me. I think the main one I've learned is you're meant to take, like if you have a massive to-do list, you're not going to be able to focus and get everything on it done. And you're meant to take 3 of the absolute non-negotiables that you need to achieve that day and like pull them out. So I'll do that the night before to be like, I actually really need to get these 3 things done. And then at least if you do those 3 things, you've like really achieved what you need to. And then there's everything else around that. Yeah.
And this is probably something I want to get better at. I read something the other day where it's like, stop being perfect at everything or trying to be great at everything, because you don't need to be. You just have to be really, really good at 3 things or whatever it is. Like no one wants an average person that writes essays, but the world does need the next most brilliant scientist. So just focus on like, and the world will reward you on what you're amazing at. Like when I was at the corporate, I was, pretty good at particular tasks. I could get people engaged and excited about doing something. I could rally everyone around a problem. And, was I the best person at making sure we were totally focused? No, but I was also pretty good at getting someone around me who was totally focused on just that task and keeping us all to account. And then I would just rally with that person. So yeah, focus on your strengths, I guess, is another one. But you couldn't do that unless you were all hydrated up properly and, fed well. And I think we've got a few areas that we do well here. So we just do like, this is so boring actually, so mundane, but we do it like a weekly Asda order. And I've just got a massive drink bottle by my side all the time, which helps me just kind of like, get through, which just, where are we now? We're at like 3 p.m. and I'm pretty much like on and I feel good.
What's it telling you? It tells
just
you
drink
keep
like,
drinking.
It's like 2.5 liters or something.
Remember your goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what this says, but I just know this is like the right amount of water. So I fill it up in the morning. Normally at gym, I'll have finished basically half the bottle, and I don't need to drink anything in the evening.
And this is a really actually, I don't know. Again, it is quite boring, but I find
this is your biggest weakness.
This is my biggest weakness. It's like your biggest strength and my biggest weakness. I'm terrible at drinking water, like really terrible.
Yeah.
If I'm like, obviously it's that thing of like, if you're thirsty, it's too late, isn't it? And then I'll be like, oh, I've got a headache, and you're like, when did you last drink water? I'm like, oh, okay, well I'll pop a paracetamol and then.
Jesus, just drink water instead.
So yeah.
But that's just a small one. Like, get it done. Buy healthy, drink healthy. We don't drink. That's probably another habit that like kind of snuck into this. Drink alcohol. We just got so much more stuff to do. I feel terrible after hungover. So we just don't really have alcohol in the house.
It's become more of a recent thing. I'd say I drank like the normal amount like through uni and like a bit after, and then hangovers just sounds like for everyone just started getting worse.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, so I just stopped drinking.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't drank in about a year and a half now, so I wasn't a big drinker before, so I know people that have like struggled with alcohol or drank or like, you know, been quite binge drinkers and then stopped and then been like, wow, I feel amazing. I wasn't drinking enough before to really notice much of a difference. I just really enjoy not being hungover.
I think your mental health has taken a massive swing upwards though because of it.
Oh yeah. That is like anxiety thing, isn't it? Like those, you know, and it would last a couple of days. That's the thing. Even if on the Monday I wasn't actually feeling like hungover sick, I'd still not feel great because I've probably missed my Monday morning workout because I've like overslept
and had shit food. But that's probably something for another day.
Yeah.
So guys, I hope that was a little bit of a peek into our brains around our habits, both for the business and for ourselves. It's definitely not the be all and end all, just something different we wanted to do in this podcast. We are actually humans, surprisingly or not. And so I think we've got a lot of room for improvement, but I also think we do some things really well. So if you are on YouTube, obviously leave your comments below.
Yeah, I really want to know if you've got habits that you really stick to and you're like, this is my
what do business owners do?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably something that maybe it's different as you transition from corporates to businesses. Like, what are the things that you kind of like tick off and get done well? And maybe this is a bit too much like, you know, habit focused, but that's what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, as a business owner, moving from corporate out of that space or even just a normal job, you do lose a lot of routine that you have to put back in. So
yes,
suddenly,
that routine. We should do another episode on that.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff coming your way, guys.
So thanks, guys, everyone. So if you like what we've got to say, please like and subscribe for more and comment below.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you guys.